So a lot of people, they're like, the heavier your AR-15 is, carrying it in the field, and this and this in the field, blah blah blah. Listen, 99% of people that own AR-15s are not in the field. They are at the gun range, and they are in an indoor gun range, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. Um, and all the power to them, and I give them credit. If you're practicing with your gun and your rifle, it's practice, whether you're in the field or at a range. And let's just be honest with it. It's normally way more convenient to go to a range where everything's set up. You got benches, you got the targets, all that stuff. It's way more easy to do that than find some remote tract of land, go out in the field, and pop off some rounds. So, all these people, when the SHTF and I got to hump my rifle, hump means like carry your rifle, yeah, I want it as light as possible and blah, blah. A lot of these guys are living in some fantasy world. I tell you. I'll leave it at that, but a lot of people think that having a heavy AR-15 as poison is a crime. All this random nonsense. In my opinion, like I said, and this isn't even heavy. This is like 7.5 pounds. It's surprisingly light. Just in my experience, the heavier an AR-15 is, the more accurate I can shoot it, the quicker I can shoot it, the less I have to be. So light AR-15s, I'm not saying they recoil a lot, but with light AR-15s, if you're in a less than standard position, so if you're in any positions besides a normal position where you can just pull it really tight against your shoulder, light AR-15s, those feather light builds, they just, I don't know, they're harder to control, and so they affect the shootability of the rifle, which to me I think is more of a crime on AR-15s. So the benefit of heavier rifles is you're using the rifle's weight to soak up a lot of that jump and stuff like that. And then also aiming wise, especially offhand, most people are used to shooting on a bench where it's stable, but shooting offhand, when you got something heavier, say the wind's blowing, if the wind's blowing high enough or with enough speed and you're shooting a super light rifle, the wind will blow that muzzle back and forth. When you got a heavier gun, it might be like a little more awkward to hold for extended amounts of time, but when you are aiming it, there's less outside influences on the rifle. Whether it's just you, like say you're hunting and your heart rate's up, you don't see that while you're shooting because that weight soaks it up. The wind blowing, you cold and shivering, a lot of those factors, when you have a heavier gun, are diminished down to normally zero. The other thing I want to talk about real quick are the stocks. Like I showed you, this, call it a fixed stock. It's adjustable, but it's stronger than even some fixed stocks. The reason I have fixed stocks on my AR-15s is for a couple of reasons. First, more stability. Second, less rattle, which I just find super annoying. And again, that's a pet peeve, and that's more about like personal, individual issue. You might not find an issue, but the main problem is I've broken collapsible stocks before, and if you break a stock, you can still jam that buffer tube against your shoulder, into your shoulder pocket, and shoot. It's just not comfortable, and now you're out, say $50 to $100, however much your fancy collapsible stock was. The other thing is that buffer tube can get caught up with grass, with snow, with mud, with dirt, with sand, you name it, with twigs, with leaves, whatever, and get really hard to actuate. And you're all dependent on just a tiny little pin that sticks into an aluminum tube. So that combination is not that durable. So I'm not saying collapsible stocks are bad, but personally, if I can use a fixed stock, I'll use a fixed stock. And if I need to use a collapsible stock, like this is the one I prefer. It is heavy. You know, I'm not going to say it's a lightweight, but it's super stable, and you got a lot. It's just way stronger. You can bash a zombie skull in with this. You can use this as a bolt paddle. You can swing it like a Louisville Slugger. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with this, not break it. I wouldn't recommend that though.